Hey folks, and welcome to this week's installment of GitHub Demo Day. Let me just share my screen here and we'll get going. So my name is Steve, and I am glad to be presenting to you all today. And I'm glad everyone could make it. I hope everyone is doing great. So I'm joined here as well by my colleague and friend, John. If John, you are there and you want to jump on and just say hello quick.
Hey everybody, glad to be here.
Thanks, John. And can you see, just make sure you can see my screen, right? I want to make sure we get that done right.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, it's demo days again, everybody, and we are excited to be here. And today we will be talking to you all about creating a GitHub app, and it's going to be awesome. I do want to give a quick warning. Unexpectedly, I have some workers outside my office, like literally the other side of this door, and they occasionally like to hit a hammer or like turn a drill on. So I do apologize in advance if any of that noise comes through, and we'll do our best to kind of mitigate. I did ask them to be quiet, but they've got jobs to do as well. So we'll see how we go here. So please bear with me. And as I said, my name is Steve Winton. I have the pleasure of working at GitHub as a partner engineer, which means I get to work on things like GitHub apps and help our wonderful and amazing partners at GitHub as they build integrations on top of GitHub's platform. So we've got quite a bit of content to get through today. And actually, I'm reading straight from this gist, which is public. You can hit it at this URL if you want to get a sneak peek, but maybe you don't want to spoil the surprise. I don't know. So yeah, this is the stuff that we've got in store for you today. A little bit of an intro. I'd love to talk about GitHub apps, kind of what they are, what the motivation is behind kind of their design, where they came from, what you can do with them. And then we'll actually build a GitHub app, or I'm going to try and build it. I'm going to be writing it in Golang for fun, and Golang isn't necessarily my favorite programming language. I'm learning to love it, but let's see how we go there. It's going to be a little bit of an experiment. And yeah, if there's any, I imagine we'll be done in maybe a little bit under an hour. If there's any time remaining, then I'm certainly happy to go get my bass over there. I can like pull it down and I can play a major scale or something for you all. And I know, John, you've got a keyboard, I think, so we could knock out a tune perhaps, or we could just adjourn early. Honestly, I'm open to whatever we want to do. And so let's dive in. Let's do our quick intro here. So GitHub apps, what are they? Why do they exist? So we'll dive into this in a little bit more detail, but essentially GitHub apps are the modern way for third parties, for integrators, and really any user of GitHub to kind of integrate with GitHub via the API. You might think of GitHub apps as a bot that you grant access to different objects within your GitHub repos and allow those bots to like get to work and automate things for you, or check things for you, or kind of greet your users, or all kinds of wonderful and fancy things. Essentially, we like to say that you can kind of codify your workflow with these bots or GitHub apps. And a fun fact is that GitHub itself is also built with GitHub apps. So what I mean by that is that there are several products that GitHub is comprised of, and those products also kind of leverage GitHub apps. So we'll hopefully it will kind of make a bit more sense by the end of the next hour. So let's jump in. And I find it helpful to first of all think of GitHub apps in the context of OAuth. And in the beginning, there was OAuth, but actually I think prior to OAuth, what we had was what was known, I mean, this is kind of showing my age a little bit, but we had the password anti-pattern, where if you wanted to give access to your account to a third party, you would actually give that third party your password. So I remember way back when Spotify first came out, and at that time I was a big fan of Last.fm. And in those days when I wanted to kind of share what I was listening to on Spotify to my Last.fm profile, I literally would just give Spotify my Last.fm password. You know, nothing bad happened. I trusted that Spotify would guard it well, but it kind of became known then in the industry as like the password anti-pattern. And OAuth was kind of the response to that, this designed flow where like a resource owner, so like a user, could grant access to a third party to the stuff that they own on like GitHub, and they could kind of attach kind of scopes and give different access controls to that third party without having to give out like their password at all. So you know, OAuth has been pretty successful in solving that, and GitHub itself supports version 2 of the OAuth protocol, and it's great for many little things. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of a demo here of OAuth, and I'm going to cheat a little bit though, because just in the interest of time. So we're going to be using this repo over here, which is private, and it's also running on GitHub Enterprise, not github.com. So all of our stuff today is going to be running on GitHub Enterprise for fun. It will also work on github.com, but we kind of wanted to show that this stuff works all on both .com and GitHub Enterprise Server. In case you're not aware, GitHub Enterprise Server is like the self-hosted version of github.com, so you can download a virtual appliance and you can host GitHub in your own private cloud if you want to. So that's what I'm doing here. And I am going to do a little OAuth demo. So ish, we're going to do that a lightweight one. So first thing I'm going to do to show this off is I'm going to jump over to, so I'm signed in as myself here. I'm focused on demo days, but I'm going to jump down to my settings over here. And in my profile, we have these developer settings. And oh, look at that, GitHub Apps, but we'll come back to that later. I'm going to come down to personal access tokens. So I could create an OAuth app, but I'm just going to create a personal access token, which are kind of similar to the OAuth app in terms of the token that you get. You just don't have to do like the OAuth dance to get one. So the third party in this instance is kind of myself, which is maybe a little bit strange. Let's go ahead and generate a new token, and I've got to do this thing. And I'm just going to call my token demo. And I can attach these scopes to my token, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to have it kind of authenticate as me, but it won't be able to actually do anything, which is fine. That's perfectly valid. And also, if anyone watching steals my token, then they can't do anything, because I'm about to show you what my token is. So here's my token. I'm going to copy that. Hopefully that works. And then I'm going to jump over to my terminal, which is over here. John, let me know if this is a little bit too tiny, if you don't mind. Hopefully you can see this all right. So I copied my token here. I'm going to just use it in a request against the GitHub API. So let's first of all actually do this without authenticating. So if I just hit this URL, which is the same kind of domain as up here, but I'm just putting API/API/v3. Excuse me while I move my Zoom controls. So yeah, if I come up here and I hit API/v3, then we get like this JSON response back, but it says that I must authenticate to access this API. So let's repeat that on the command line using curl. So if I curl, I get the exact same response back, and I can make that look a bit prettier by passing it through JQ. So this time let's authenticate. So I'm going to use my token, which I have as my environment variable. So this time I'm going to do curl -h. What is it? Authorization. And then if I type bearer and that environment variable and hit that endpoint again. And actually, I'll hit a different one. I'll hit API v3 user, which will just return the authenticated user. I get bad credentials. Let's try that again. Yeah, bad credentials. Why is that? Why doesn't it like my credentials?
Steve, try token in front of bearer, or instead of bearer.
Yeah, let's try that as well. Let me just create a new token in case there's an issue with this token. Oh, let's call it demo2. So let's copy
But they
this.
should both work.
Right. So it's just, oh, I think I didn't maybe export my environment variable. I think I have to do export GitHub token equals that. Okay, there we go. That was the issue. I hadn't exported it. So silly mistake. Okay, so now I'm authenticated as myself and I get this information back. And that's pretty cool, right? Now I have access to the GitHub REST API and I can do all kinds of cool things. So I'm actually gonna, I have another token that I created earlier. So I'm gonna jump over to this folder, which I think is in my demo days. And now if I replay that request, it's the same. I get the same response back, like it's me, right? Because I'm saying who is the authenticated user, and the authenticated user is myself. But this time, let's do something slightly different. So I'm going to pass in some data, and we'll actually try and open a GitHub issue. So this token has kind of write access to my repo. So in this case, I'll send in a little payload. So we'll say title, and we'll say hello world. Right, so I'll send it here, but we can't send it to the user. We have to send it to v3 repos slash, I have a repo under the demo days org, and that repo is called spoon knife slash issues. Okay, so same token as before. Well, actually, my pre-created token, send in this body title hello world, and post it to the issues endpoint. And hopefully we get this back, which is looking good. And we should see and the HTML URL is what we want. So let's go and oops, over here. Let's go and check that out. Ugh. Where's my window gone? I think Hyper just crashed on me. Ugh, Hyper. So I won't do it again. What I can do is I'll just go straight to my demo days org. Let's do demo days spoon knife, and we see the issue, and here's the hello world. So this was created by me via the API just a minute ago, but you can't really tell from looking at it. And in case anyone's in any doubt, Hyper did just quit on me unexpectedly, which has never happened before. Wonderful, the wonderful of live Twitch streaming. So we'll come back to that shortly. So this was cool, right? Pretty cool. Anyway, we got a token which equally could have been obtained through the OAuth flow. We exported it as an environment variable, and we were able to already automate some things. So I was able to automate the creation of an issue, and maybe you could attach that to some kind of application performance monitoring system. And when your production environment is running out of memory, you could open an issue or something to alert the development team to do something about it. Like that would be cool. What is not less ideal about that is that this issue is owned by me. And that doesn't always make sense. Like sometimes the issue should be owned by kind of an autonomous user that is essentially like a bot. The other thing that is not so great about this is that as Winton, as myself, I have a certain rate limit, which is capped at something like 5,000 requests per hour. But if I'm using this token across lots of organizations, lots of repos, and also lots of third-party integrations, and I could very easily run out of quota. Also, if you are using our on-prem product, this user, who might be like a machine user, has to consume a seat. And the token that I created is long-lived. So that will, unless it's revoked kind of manually or via an API, that's going to live forever. And also that token, although we only used it to create an issue, it actually has what's called repo scope. So it can do lots of other things in this repository as well, like read the code. And we might want to, you know, create a token that has more fine-grained access than that. So there are a few issues with this. Certainly it's helpful in many cases. And I use like personal access tokens or OAuth apps for lots of other reasons, but GitHub Apps has kind of been designed to solve a lot of those problems. So let's talk about, we talked about this. Let's go into a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna skip some of the theory. This is, as I said, this is a public gist, and the URL is up here. There are those workers getting hard at work outside. Apologies if you can hear that. So yeah, introducing GitHub Apps. So the benefits, you get this autonomy. It's not tied to a user on your instance. You get an improved security model because you can attach really fine-grained scopes to the bot. And you get really dedicated rate limits that the bot kind of has to itself. So yeah, it's great. And I'm going to jump over the key concepts, and we'll do a deeper lab in a second. But because this is a demo day, it'd be good to do another demo, right? So I wanted to look at this repo. This one is public. At Winton, GitHub Apps Hello World, and it's, I mentioned Golang earlier, but this is actually written in Node. And I like to think of this, I mean, it's fairly new, but I like to think of this as kind of the hello world of GitHub Apps. So let's take a look at what it looks like to kind of do the same thing we did over here with a personal access token. Let's kind of replay that. And instead this time, let's do it as a GitHub app. So here's my repo, the code to reproduce what we just did is kind of here. And where previously I was using curl and the command line, this time we are kind of using this Authenticate library, which is an awesome open source library for using the GitHub REST APIs. And when I am instantiating my Authenticate kind of instance here, I'm providing this auth strategy, which is this kind of create app auth. So it's going to authenticate as an app, and I'm passing in my app credentials, which are available over here in my app credentials file. So let's go check out app credentials. And essentially, like we'll dig into what these things are, but to authenticate as a GitHub app, there are a few things that we need. We need our GitHub app ID. We need what's called an installation ID. And we need a kind of private key. And in this instance, I'm just reading them all from environment variables. So let's go and check this out. So if I cd to, and we're going to actually bump up the zoom because it's crashed, didn't it? John, let me know if I need to bump it up a little bit more, if you wouldn't mind. Or is it looking okay?
Looking okay on my end. Yeah.
I'll bump it up a little bit more. Okay, so this is, if I do like a git remote -v, this is the same repo, right? It's just one that's checked out locally. And the environment is configured here. Actually, let's open this up in my editor.
And Steve,
yo,
H142, thanks for that question. If you could send me the link to that gist that you had, so I can paste it in chat.
Yeah,
it's on.
Can do that.
Thank you.
Where was it? This one, right? So let's go to the top. It's here. git.io/creating GitHub apps, and I'll put it in the chat as well. Oh, thanks as well. I understand. I can't see the chat, but I heard that H142, you spotted that I didn't export the environment variable. Thank you so much.
I threw the link in there.
You got the link to my gist?
Yep.
There's a ton of stuff in here. We probably won't get through it all today. So yeah, thanks for doing that, John. And yeah, let me get back to, I think I was going to talk about this code. So over here in this .env.example, I'm just exporting the environment variables that I need, and this is just the one. This is the real one is here, right? And in my app credentials, I'm reading it from the environment, and we're going to run our code. So let's actually try and run this. Fingers crossed, everyone. So if I just do like a node GitHub app hello world.js, hopefully this is going to work. And yeah, we got an issue. So I'm going to just go ahead and open this. And this time, let's do a nice side-by-side comparison, right, with the first issue, which is here. So this was this is the issue I created with my personal access token, which is pretty cool. It's okay. It's useful for some things. This is the really cool issue that's open with my issue bot. So I've got this issue bot here installed on my repo that can also interact with my repo. And what's cool about this issue bot is that all of the things that were not cool about this approach, well, issue bot is pretty good at this stuff. Like issue bot has only access to issues in my repo, and issue bot isn't consuming a seat on my GitHub Enterprise Server. And issue bot has a dedicated REST API rate limit, and all the other things that I said about GitHub Apps, autonomy, improved security model, dedicated rate limits, issue bot. So,
and hey,
yeah.
Steve, really quick, there was a great question from David Carlson. Is there any way to make it easier for users to install an app when it's designed to run on an instance per org? It's not a centrally run instance, so not a single webhook event for every, or a single webhook endpoint for every org, but is there an easier way to configure that?
Could you mind, I need to kind of wrap my head around that question a bit better. Do you mind replaying that for me, John?
I think
so,
the way it's written is the idea of, let's talk about Stalebot, something like that, a different Stalebot for every org. At that point, you have to have a different webhook endpoint set up for every organization.
So is it maybe talking about having an app, a different app per kind of instance of GitHub Enterprise Server?
For a different organization, for each individual organization on GitHub Enterprise Server.
So if I have like a single, so let's go back, let's go to the homepage here. So in this instance, right, I have my, I don't want to be on this page, so I'm going to go somewhere else. So here's my server, right? And I've got like my Winton account and my demo days, and I could create another organization and I'll just call it foobar or whatever. And then I'll just say, skip this step and let's go back. So now I have two organizations, and is the question kind of, how do I easily set up my app so it has access to all of these organizations? So we've got Winton, Demo Days, and foobar, and we just want to have a single GitHub app that has access to all of this stuff independently. I think.
Yes.
So
no. Let me rephrase that. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
So with with 3 orgs, having 3 apps that are completely segregated, siloed, so to speak. And yeah, David, to answer your question, you would have to have 3 different installations of that on a web server somewhere, 3 different webhooks.
Right.
That would listen for
so
events.
So we're going to unpack this actually. That's a great question. So this is the model for GitHub Apps, and assume that this is all living in a box, which is your GitHub Enterprise Server instance. So on that instance, you've got a single GitHub app, and in this case, we have 2 installations of the app. The first one is ID 123456, which is living on this Battenberg org, and the other one is this ID 456789, which is living on this other org. Right, so they are kind of independent installations, so they're completely siloed from each other. But the cool thing is that they all kind of point back to the same GitHub app. So as we'll see in a second, all the permissions are shared, kind of the webhook handler is shared. It's kind of shared at this level. But when you grab a token, which is down here, so when this installation ID has this token, it can only access what it's been granted within that org. So to access the other stuff, you just have to have a different token. So hopefully that answers that question. If not, let's come back to it and maybe try and clarify in a bit more. But I'm hoping that the rest of this is going to get us through to kind of build that mental model. So yeah, we saw this issue, hello world issue 2, created by our GitHub app. I know the lab will take about half an hour, so I'm going to jump into the lab now, which is here. So I'm going to clean up some tabs quickly because it's getting a bit busy up here. Yeah, I should be fine. So in this lab, let's create a GitHub app. And before we create this GitHub app, so this GitHub app will kind of, what should it do, right? What should our new GitHub app do that we're about to create and code? So there are lots of things that we could do here. And if we want some inspiration, we could go look at the GitHub Marketplace, at all of these apps that other people have created. We could look at this Probot page for inspiration of what you can do. But for our GitHub app today, we're just going to say that this will be a simple bot that will listen for pull requests. And if the title of the pull request includes a robot emoji, then the bot is just going to automatically approve the pull request. So this particular bot really likes pull requests that mention bots. It's a bit of like an inception thing, I guess. So let's give this a go. And actually, they're working outside, apologies. Actually, the first thing we need to do is go figure out from the docs what APIs we need. So there is this amazing website, which is the documentation website for github.com and GitHub Enterprise Server. And we need to look at the REST API docs. And because our bot is going to be interacting with pull requests, so it's going to approve a pull request if it includes the bot emoji, then let's go check out the pulls section over here. And I believe this is what we want: create a review for a pull request. And this is the documentation. So we need to hit this endpoint. So previously we were hitting the issues endpoint. In this case, we're going to hit the pulls kind of route with details of the repo, so the organization that it lives in, and the name of the repo, so demo day spoon knife, the pull request number, the reviews kind of path, and there are a number of other things, like we'll need to send in the commit ID, the body of our kind of review, and then what's called the event. So what kind of action are we performing with our review of the pull request? Are we approving it? Are we requesting changes, or are we commenting? So I imagine that this bot, if it sees a pull request that doesn't include the bot emoji, it's going to request changes, right? And say, I need a bot emoji to approve this. So that's one aspect, is the API. And the other aspect that we need to go look at are the webhooks. So again, we can look at the documentation. Oh, sorry, I wanted to point out one more thing quick. Back over here. So it's not immediately obvious, but while most of our REST APIs are available for GitHub apps, some of them are not. So we can check that, and it's kind of a little bit subtle in our documentation, but when you're looking at the documentation for an API endpoint like this one, if you scroll down through like the description, through the parameters, through the code samples, there's some notes at the end. And if it works with GitHub apps, there'll be a note saying works with GitHub apps. So this one works with GitHub apps, so we're good to use it. So let's go and look at the developer docs. And handily over here, actually, I should probably bump up the zoom on this as well. Always forget to do that. Over here on this page, there's a webhooks area, and I believe we can go to the events and GitHub Events type, and we should see a pull request event. No, this is the wrong one. This is the one I want, webhooks. And Webhook Events and payloads. There's a difference between events and webhooks. Events are kind of the same data, but available over a REST API. Webhooks are the payloads that you actually are sent to you. So let's go look at the pull request event. So our bot will listen for pull requests. It will receive an event that kind of looks like this. So we'll be able to consume this. We'll get the number. We'll get the title, because we need to validate the title. We'll get the repo where that pull request lives. Further down, maybe. It's in this, I know it's in this payload. There is repository, so we'll get the name and we'll get the full name and the owner. So this gives us all of the data that we need to build our application. So let's actually go ahead and build this. And I am going to do this. I'm going to actually navigate to my GitHub demo days org. I'm going to jump into the settings here. So previously we created my personal access token on my personal account. So we did it over here under Winton, but this time for the GitHub app, I'm going to create it under an org. And in most cases, I actually recommend doing it this way because you can then share the administration or kind of the upkeep or kind of the monitoring of your GitHub app. You can share that amongst a team. So I'm going to jump to my org settings page here. I really hope my power stays on when they're out there drilling. It just occurred to me. I really do apologize if we have a power cut over here. Fingers crossed. So, okay, here we are now on this page, GitHub demo days, in my settings, GitHub apps, and check that out. There's our issue bot friend that we saw earlier, and that's me. I'm an organization owner over here. So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to create a new GitHub app. And because I'm feeling very imaginative today, I'm going to call my GitHub app pull request bot. And I'm going to copy some details from over here. So this is a really long form, right? And there's a way that you can post data to this page so that you can like trim down what you actually see here, but it's a little bit out of scope for what we're doing today. So we don't need to fill out this whole thing. We just need to fill out the required parts. So I'm going to give my bot a home page. I'm just going to say my bot lives at example.com/PR bot. There we go. That's my bot's homepage. I'm not going to do any of this identifying and authorizing users. I'm going to leave that empty. I'm not doing any post-installation stuff, so I'm going to leave that empty. I am going to do webhooks. So I'm going to paste in my webhook URL. I'm going to use ngrok here. So ngrok is a really fancy service that will allow me to tunnel webhook events from the internet to my local machine so I can handle them and develop locally. It's really, really useful. And then I'm going to put in a webhook secret, and I don't mind telling you all this, but my webhook secret here is going to be development, DEVELOPMENT. And enable SSL verification, yeah, that's okay. So repository permissions, I need to be able to write to pull requests because we're going to review a pull request. So I'm going to request read and write access to pull requests, and we can skip a lot of this. Don't need any organization permissions, don't need any user permissions, do need to subscribe to events. So I'm going to subscribe to the pull request event. So this will tell us when a pull request was open, closed, and so on. And where can this app be installed? I'm going to say it can be installed on any account. So let's go ahead and create our app. I don't need to save my password. Go away, one password. Don't need you right now. Thank you. And I do get this message saying you need to generate a private key. So remember when we authenticated as the app, we had a private key. So I'm going to just download that. So that's generating. We'll come back to that in a second. I also quite like to give my bots a logo. So I should have a logo over here somewhere under pictures and bots 001. So I'm going to give my bot a nice logo. That looks great. And I can set a background color if I want, but I like the way that's looking. And now let's go ahead and install the app. And remind me, John, to keep this to keep this page open actually. So let's do, I'll keep this page open and let's install the app separately over here. And I'm going to say, I'm going to install the app on my demo days org, and I'm just going to, you can say like, actually you can only have access to Spoon Knife, but I'm going to say all repositories, and there's only one repository, so it doesn't really make a difference. But if there are future repositories, then my bot will get access to that repository as well. So that's pretty useful often. So I'm going to install my bot there. And this is why I stayed on this page, because now, I see John, you've jumped on the camera. It's nice to see you. So under here, so I'm back here on the GitHub app page, and if I jump down to advanced, you can see recent deliveries of Webhook Events, which is very useful. And we get this Webhook event down here, which I think is going to be a ping. Yeah, we get a ping event, which was sent to my mgrok tunnel. And we got a 404 response, which is because my tunnel isn't running yet. So we're going to go do that next. So I'm going to keep that page open. And I'm actually going to go over to this repo here, which this is a public repo. And let me just throw that in the chat, John, if you want to share that as well. As I said, I've been As I said, I've been messing around with some Golang recently. It's pretty fancy. It's pretty clever stuff. And I've got this template repo for GitHub Apps that's written in Golang. And it's using a framework which is based on, if anyone is familiar with the Probot framework for Node, it's kind of inspired by that framework. But we're not going to get into that. We're just going to use the template, and I'm going to get on with it. So let's go ahead and use this template. So I'm going to hit the green button, and we should get a copy of this repo so I can start coding. So I'm going to call it pull request bot. And I'm going to make this private because I'm a little bit shy and it might not be very good. So let's create my repository, pull request bot. This may take a few seconds. Please bear with us. Let's have a little drink. There we go. Wasn't too bad. So now I've got my pull request bot, which is not the same as the template we were just looking at. It's a copy of the template. I'm going to go ahead and clone this locally. So I'm going to copy my snippet here, and hopefully Hyper doesn't crash again, right? So let's just do a git clone of pull request bot, and let's cd into pull request bot, and let's open that in my editor. Can't believe Hyper crashed. Okay, so here's the copy of the code, and the nice thing is that the author of this template gave us some nice instructions on how to get going here. So we need to generate a repo from this template, which we just did that. And then we need to configure our local environment, and we need to provide values for these environment variables, which are listed in .nvarc.example. So I'm going to open that up. And if you're not familiar with this .nvarc format, let me tell you, I'm a fan. So if I create this .nvarc file here, what this means is that whenever I change directory into this directory, this nvarc file will kind of execute and automatically populate the environment with the environment variables I need, but only while I'm in that directory. So it's extremely useful when you're jumping in between like different environments or different GitHub apps all day long, which I often do. nvarc is a great kind of way to do that, and it's dirnv.net is the thing. So we need to anyway fill in these details. So we need a GitHub base URL, we need a GitHub app ID, we need a private key path, we need our GitHub app web secret, which, as I mentioned before, is development. So that's all good. And we downloaded that certificate, if you remember. So that should be waiting here in my downs. I need to. This is a nice thing about dirnv. You have to explicitly kind of say, yeah, that's good. So, okay, so there's my private key. I'm just going to move that private key down, down tab. I have a folder called certs. I'm going to move it into my certs folder, cd certs, cd certs. present working directory. So my my GitHub private, this one, right? If I do an ls-ltr, we'll get that token. We'll get that secret, I mean, and I got to go back to my my pull request bot, which is there. So we have now this this certificate, my GitHub App ID. I think that's going to be 2. That's going to be my bet. I bet it's going to be GitHub App ID 2. So it's available. If you don't, in case you don't know, it's going to be available here in general. Look at that. I was right. It's GitHub App ID 2. So I'm going to copy that, and then I need my GitHub base URL, which is going to be in this form, but I need to change the kind of host name. So I'm just going to copy that from up here. And then this thing should be almost configured. We can run it, and then we can write some code. And I've got 15 minutes left. So I'm going to allow this, and okay, that's looking good. So I dirn just exported those environment variables so that I can use them. And let's go back to the README so I can see what I have to do next. So over here in the, let's close this down. Don't read that now. Over here in the README, so we're gonna run the app now, right? So there's this other tool which is pretty handy called Reflex, which will just, when you run it, it will just look for any changes to files that you specify, and when any of those files change, it will reload kind of the command that you pass it. So in my case, I'm just going to ask it to rerun or reload this go run main.go command. So let's get that going over here. And actually, I'm going to do it in this window, in this tab. So pull request bot, and then let's run Reflex. So Reflex is going to start our app. So it's got a nice message saying it's loaded GitHub App ID 2, and it's listening now at localhost. And this is where we need our ngrok command as well to just expose that to the interwebs. So I have this again in my README. So I can do ngrok HTTP 8000, but I've also got this configuration file which you can read about here, which allows me to just run ngrok start main instead. So let's do that. And now we are online, and that webhook payload should now work. And the nice thing as well about ngrok is you get this pretty cool web interface. So you can see the webhooks kind of come in, and you can see the responses, and you can replay them. It's all pretty useful. So right now it hasn't done anything. So I've got my ngrok here. Let me just rearrange some things so I get a bit more organized. I've got my ngrok, which is hasn't received anything yet. I've got my GitHub app. Let's go and create a pull request. What do you say? And see if this app will do anything for us. So over here in my Spoon Knife repo where the app is installed, I'm going to go ahead and open a pull request quick. So I'm going to say create new file. I'm just going to say apps are nice.md, and I'm going to say we like apps, and I'm going to say robot. I'm going to also say unicorn. Oops. Yeah, that'll do. And I'm going to create a new branch, and I'm going to propose this change. And I'm going to create the pull request. So this should have generated an event. And so if I go back to my advanced tab here, we got a new webhook, and it posted this time a pull request event with the action open. But again, we got a 400. Previously we got a 404. Now we've got a 400. This is expected because the framework is telling us that there isn't a handler here yet to handle this event. And if I go into the ngrok inspector, we've got the same thing here, which is pretty nice. So the next thing we need to do is actually create our handler so that we can respond to this pull request that's been opened. So we're going to jump back, and we're going to edit this main.go. And the way you register handlers is via this main function on this kind of probot package that's imported from here. You can just say, hey, probot, handle event, whatever the event is, with this function. And when that event comes in, your function will get called and you can handle it. And if something goes wrong, you can just return an error and everything will be wonderful. So we need another one of these because this one handles issues and we need to handle pull requests. So this is where I type code and this is where it all starts to go potentially messy because I don't really enjoy live coding all that much, if I'm honest with you. It's can be a little bit stressful. So the function needs to be written in a very specific way because this is Golang and Golang likes kind of static types, which is fair enough, quite honestly. I can see the benefit. So our probot handle event is going to listen for a pull request, and then this event is going to run. This function, sorry, is going to run, and we'll get past this context, which has some pretty useful stuff on it. It's got our app. It's got the incoming payload, which is the webhook event that we're handling, and it's got this GitHub client, and the GitHub client will be already kind of associated with the installation, so we can just like call the API. We don't have to worry about creating a token or anything like that. And the other thing is, because we know it's a pull request event, we can go ahead and get the actual kind of concrete class, interface that we know it actually is. So we can say context.payload, and we can say this is not, so up here it was an issues event because we're handling issues, and down here it's going to be a pull, I believe it's a pull request event. So it's going to be one of those. And let's just do something else. Now we've got this event, which is a pull request event. We can actually get the pull request from it. So we can say the PR is going to be event.get pull request, right? Like so. And just for funsies, let's go ahead and log out. How am I doing on time? Log.printf. Let's say that we got the PR title, %s, and we're going to say, here's our PR title, pr.title. And we're going to say return. So we have to return something. And because we haven't encountered an error, I can just return nil for this error up here. So this is kind of the wonderful world of Golang we're living in now. So I think this all makes sense. I'm going to save that. And as I said, the wonderful thing, if I jump over here, it just automatically reloads. So I'm going to actually move some windows around to make this a little bit easier. We'll get rid of this. Okay, so this reloaded. Previously, we got a 400 bad requests. And if I jump back over to here and let me bump up the zoom and replay this, now we got a 200 okay. And we go all the way down to the bottom of the page. Oh wow, it's a long way. We just received that. Return this response saying, yeah, we received that. Message received. We didn't do anything. And what we want to do is we want to approve or request changes on the pull request. Remember, all the way over here, right? If the title includes the robot emoji, then we're going to say it's a good pull request. Otherwise, we're going to say no. We want some changes on this thing. So let's go ahead and do that. Back in the handler. Oh, this is confusing, isn't it? Too many things are open. That's what I want. So back in my handler, we're going to say, okay, does the title include a robot emoji or doesn't it? So actually, before we do that, let's look at the documentation for the on the GitHub API client that we're using. This create review method. Let's quickly review this. So this is what we're going to call to create our review on the pull request. We need to pass in the owner repo, the number of the pull request, and this pull request kind of object. And then we get some stuff back. So the first thing I want to do is actually create this new pull request review. They call it a pull request review request, which I find a little bit confusing, but we're going to run with it. So let's just say that we have a new review, which is our review of the pull request, and it's going to be equal to the GitHub pull request review request, pull request, review request. There it is. And it needs to have a commit ID, so which is really just a commit char, which is available from our pull request. That we'll just send it in the head pr.head. We'll just send in the head char from our pull request, the most recent commit to the pull request. Our review will be attached to this commit char. Okay, so my linter is yelling at me because we're not doing anything with new review yet, so we better do something with it. So let's say if the title includes the robot. So the way we do that is, in Golang is something like if strings.contains, and we say the string is going to be the pull request title. If it contains this string, which is going to be snip my robot, that guy, if it contains this, then we're happy, right? So we can say new review dot event equals, did I type that right? I prefer it when it auto completes, to be honest. Yeah, event equals github.string, and we're going to say approve that pull request, and we're going to pass in a body, which will just be the little message from the bot. So body is going to be, we'll just say looks good to me, and let's send in a nice rocket emoji. Isn't that lovely? And if this is not true, if this is not the case, and our robot is not happy, so let's say new review dot event equals github.string, and we're going to say request changes in a stern voice, request changes, and the body is going to say, hey, needs more robot. Boom. And okay, so all we've done so far, we haven't actually created this yet, right? We've just got this object locally, so we can just send that to GitHub. And I said that this context object has a kind of a hydrated GitHub API client already attached to it, so we can just plug into that by saying ctx, which is the context that's given to us. There's a GitHub dot pull requests dot create review, and we have to pass in this context. I'm just going to say context dot background. I believe that's like if you want to like time out the request if it's taking too long, you can do that. But I'm just going to pass in this default background. We're not going to do anything like that. So we need to pass in the owner, which is repo dot owner dot login. Oops, login, and the other one. I feel like we're not going to have time to get the get your keyboard out, John, for you to do a little song for everyone. Apologize.
That's okay with me.
Maybe you could record something for us.
Yeah. Synthesizer, guitar, drums, whatever.
Hey, I shouldn't be talking to you. This is the crucial time. Will you stop interrupting me? Goodness me. Trying to code this thing over here. I'm just joking. So hopefully I've already messed this up because I decided to be clever. So we need to pass in this background, the login, the name, the pull request number, and our review. It's shouting at me, which honestly, that always makes me a bit nervous. Oh, and this is going to return some things that we might want to catch. So let's catch those things. It's going to return our review, the response, and the error. So I'll just say, I'll say review. Let's ignore the response. We'll just say error, or rather error, equals those things. Oops. And then we'll say if, and now my dog is barking. So I don't know if you can, it's chaos here today, I'm telling you. I don't know if you can hear my dog barking over there. She's probably barking at those construction workers. These are not the ideal circumstances to be live coding under, I gotta say. So let's printf a new review created. And let's say %, we'll just log out that review. If this works, honestly, it's going to be a miracle. It's just too much. All right, so I coded that miraculously, and I'm going to save it, and hopefully this compiles. And undefined repo. Oh yeah, I got to get the repo right. Where do I get that? I think I can get that off of the event. So let's say repo is the event dot get repo or something. Yeah, so let's try that again. Starting service, fingers crossed, there it is, it's loaded. So I'm going to jump back over to my, wherever it is. Oops, how do I do this? Over to my pull request, actually, no, sorry, over to here. And I'm just going to replay. I mean, I could create a new pull request, right, and do it from the beginning to end. I'm just going to replay it. And we've got a 200, okay. If I go back to my pull request, and my robot has noticed that there is no bot emoji, and my robot is not happy and says needs more robots. So let's go ahead and change the title, and let's say robot, and let's do that. And now my robot has kindly approved the pull request for us. So what a good robot. So long as all of your pull requests have the robot emoji in the title, then this particular app is going to be pretty happy. So, okay, that was like a pretty whirlwind end-to-end demo. We managed to do it. We created this GitHub app, it listens for new pull requests, and it approves it if we have a robot emoji in it. Just by way of review, so GitHub apps are kind of this great way for third parties to like autonomously access protected GitHub resources and manipulate them. And they're also used by GitHub. They're like a first-class platform primitive internally for us to build our own products. And some of my favorite GitHub apps are kind of Dependabot, which helps you keep your dependencies updated in your repos. And also GitHub Actions is also a GitHub app. And if you were wondering, well, couldn't I have done all of this code that we just painstakingly wrote, and we're hosting and have like a webhook listener and all of those things, couldn't it just be a GitHub action? Well, I mean, actually, in this case, it could. And on our public docs here, there's this handy page that compares GitHub Actions to GitHub Apps. Interestingly, there is some overlap, and GitHub Actions kind of is a GitHub app when you look at the token that you get. This is an app token, and so long as you are happy with the permissions on that token, and you're happy that the webhook events that are supported through Actions are the ones that you want, and you can run your code fully on GitHub's servers, then you could absolutely write a GitHub app, which is really just a GitHub action, and we would host it and run it for you. And that's for a topic for another demo day, and I dare say someone has already actually done this, but there's more on creating actions here. And if this is too limited for you, like you don't have the right webhook events, or the permissions, you need more permissions than this, or you need to run or handle the compute yourself because you need the architecture, or you need the data that you're hosting, then GitHub Apps would be the right way to go. So I really hope that was helpful. I know that was a lot in an hour, and thanks for bearing with me. I will just say that there is this GitHub Apps cheat sheet available at this URL, and I'll just copy the link and maybe drop it in there. So yeah, that I think is everything for today. I am Swinton on GitHub, and my email is swinton@github.com. So if there are any questions, concerns, or comments, then feel free to hit me up there. And John, are there any like questions that we should quickly chat about before we hang up here?
No, I think we're good. We definitely covered a lot today, and so lots of things to digest. And if you want, Steve, you can always jump into the chat even after you go offline.
I will
see
do
if
that,
there's
yeah.
anything there. Cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea. All right, cool. Well, I will stop sharing, and I do hope this was helpful. The gist is public. There's the resources are public. The Probot template is public. The Probot Golang framework is public. So yeah, I hope that this has been helpful, and thanks so much for tuning in. I believe that we have another one next Friday if you'd like to join us again. And I will hang out in the Twitch chat just to see if there's any questions I can answer there. So I'm going to stop the share now. Thanks so much, everyone.
Awesome, Steve. Thank you.